Dear Pierce, I'm recording this video for you because I'm about to make a big announcement. And it's gonna be tough for us. You know, I'm not gonna be able to tuck you in every night or do our nighttime prayers together. But these are sacrifices so many hardworking families have to make every single day. Fighting for what you believe in is hard enough, but it's worth doing when you found something that makes your heart beat faster. And for me, it's you. Yeah, I've started a nonprofit, owned a small business in Detroit, even beat cancer. Served on President Obama's cancer panel, earned Ivy League degrees, and written best-selling books. But for me, adopting you is the greatest thing I've done in my life. You see, the world you're growing up in doesn't feel like it's getting any better. It's more divisive and more dangerous. When you told me that you were afraid to go to school because of shootings, it's not freedom. Our economy works for the richest, while the most vulnerable have to work even harder than ever to keep up. That's not freedom. At the core of so much of this are too many politicians in office that don't really care about people. You see, what I learned on my grandfather's farm growing up is that when you plant something in good soil, you get something much better in return. That's why I'm raising you in Michigan, a community where people are kind, work hard, and believe the future is worth fighting for. Because every child in every neighborhood, in every town across Michigan deserves the freedom to flourish. I believe our government should work for the people, be a force for good, and protect our freedoms. And that won't happen if we keep electing the same type of people to office. That's why I'm running for the United States Senate, to represent Michigan. I love you, son, and I hope to make you proud.
Believe in better. I absolutely love that line. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest is an award-winning actor known for roles on the hit CBS drama CSI New York and The Good Doctor. And as you just saw, he's now running for the United States Senate in the great state of Michigan. I'm happy to welcome my buddy, the one and only Hill Harper. What's going on, big time? How are you, sir? How's everything?
Everything is great. Great to be on. It's great to see you. And man, I hadn't watched that in a while. And I get emotional every time I watch it, just because it's been true. You know, I've been all over the state of Michigan, traveling everywhere, and I haven't. You know, there's some nights I can't tuck my son into bed, and there's some nights I just don't get home in time, and it's been hard. You know, he just graduated from second grade. I got him through second grade, which I'm happy about. But man, this what we're attempting to do here, attempting to bring real leadership to a really broken place like our Congress and our U.S. Senate it's worth it, because we got to fight for our kids' future, quite simply. And so I'm glad I just saw that again, because I'm ready to go out and fight again today. Every day's a fight. So if I'm ready to go out and fight, that charged me up.
It doesn't take long to be around you. You can just be around you for a few minutes, as I have been in the past, and know that you're an eternal optimist. So, you know, I know why you're doing it. And then you bring up your adopted son, Pierce, beautiful little boy. Congratulations on that wonderful kid. I guess the question to me for you would be, I understand why you're doing it, but how much of a difference do you believe you're going to have the potential to make in light of the climate that exist in Washington?
Sure. I think a massive difference. And I'll tell you why. Because, Stephen, in this moment, we're looking at a 50-50 Senate. And in a 50-50 Senate, and let me rewind a little bit. You know, when I was at Harvard Law School, my constitutional law professor would always talk about and say, you know, the United States Senate is the most powerful deliberative body in all of politics in all of the world. And I think people don't realize that, you know, because I'm out here, I'll ask people, they can't tell me really the difference between a U.S. Senator, a House of Representatives member, a state senator, or a state rep, you know, or city council for that matter, right? But we don't teach civics again, you know. Remember that old cartoon, I'm just a bill, yes, I'm only a bill. So people have to understand, and I'll break it down real quick. Supreme Court rules on the constitutionality of what the Senate passes. The president or the executive branch signs into law or vetoes what the Senate passes. The House of Representatives, or all these congressional members, they send a bill to the Senate. The Senate can revise it, rewrite it, send it back, amend it. move on it, change the title. So if you really, peel back the onion, 100 people in this country decide two of the most important things that affect all of our lives on a daily basis. Number one, they approve lifetime appointments of federal judges, which is very important. Obviously, we're seeing these horrific Supreme Court rulings that are coming out. But the most important, 100 people in this country decide how $7.2 trillion a year is allocated. And it's our money. It's the people's money. 100 people. And I think people forget that the president doesn't decide how the money is allocated. The U.S. Senate decides. And at the end of the day, in that body, in a 50-50 Senate, I will be able to leverage and fight for resources coming back to all these people that are hurting, all these communities where the schools aren't working, where we don't have health care, where seniors are trying to live, 30% of Michigan seniors are trying to live on less than $15,000 a year, man. People are hurting, and I'll be able to fight for those things rather than sending billions of dollars overseas for overseas violence to kill innocent civilians. How about we spend the money here at home? That's what we're talking about.
I'm interested in knowing, is that the primary reason? I'm certainly not implying otherwise, Hill, just so we're clear. But I remember in November 2023, you announced that you declined an offer of $20 million in campaign contributions that would have been contingent upon you dropping out of the Senate race and mounting a primary challenge against U.S. Representative Rashida Tlaib. Is this the when you talk about, when you highlighted what you highlighted about the U.S. Senate and the responsibility that brings, is that what the primary appeal was, or how much was it that compared to you not really wanting to be a U.S. representative in Congress, potentially competing against her?
Well, first of all, I won't be bought, I won't be bossed, I won't be bullied. I'm not taking any corporate PAC money. I'm not taking any money from taking any money from APAC. They wanted to target these candidates, and not just Congresswoman Tlaib. They targeted Jamal Bowman, and they spent $20 million and got rid of him. Just happened. They're targeting Cori Bush in Missouri. They got Wesley Bell to drop out of the Senate race and target her. They targeted Summer Lee, and their number one target was Congresswoman Tlaib, and so they made that offer to me. I emphatically refused it. I'm running to get money out of politics. I'm not running to be bought by special interests and target other candidates. This is fundamental. And let's be clear, I actually don't blame them. They have their agenda, what they want to get done, and the system allows for those types of offers to be made, and the system allows for that to happen. Many people think the reaction to the Obama presidency was the Tea Party, but I think the true reaction was Citizens United in 2010. That allows for offers like that to be made. They call corporations people, ostensibly, allowed corporations to make political contributions, and it allows for unlimited dark money into our politics. Unfettered, unlimited dark money has ruined and is actively ruining our democracy. And that offer to me is just an extension of that. We have to end Citizens United. Once I'm in the U.S. Senate, I will fight to get money out of politics, full-scale campaign finance reform, and end Citizens United. If I can just get that done in my first 6 years, I will have, I believe, saved our democracy, because Citizens United is killing our democracy.
Listen, I think it's a rhetorical question to some degree, but I'm going to ask it anyway, because you went to Harvard. You were a classmate of our former president, Barack Obama, obviously a strong supporter of his. You are both your friends. How supportive has he been for you in this quest for you to capture the U.S. Senate seat?
He's been supportive. I think that he feels that, and he's actually right, that a former president should not get involved in an open seat primary within the party. And that being the case, folks shouldn't put their thumb on the scale with an open seat primary. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case for all people in this. I wish they had the moral character of former President Obama and felt the same way. So I'm fighting parts of the establishment as well as my opponent in this race. But listen, it started with 7 candidates. Now we're down to 2. It's a very clear choice difference between me and my opponent. and we have all the momentum. So people are coming our way, and that's why we need all this support. We just had our most successful fundraiser last night. Dave Chappelle headline a big event for me here in Detroit. And so that was fantastic. And so we have a lot of momentum. We just need people, anybody who's watching now, we still need your support to go to hillharper.com and really support us, because we're going to win this thing, but we're only going to win it through people, not through party, not through special interests, not through corporate PACs. We need individuals one-to-one.
Well, you also talk about your opponent. That's for those that don't know, establishment candidate, U.S. Representative Alyssa Slotkin is your opponent here. But you brought up Dave Chappelle real quickly. What's your relationship with him? How far does it span? Why did he have this event, this fundraising event for you last night? Obviously, you must know him pretty well. Dave Chappelle, he's a brilliant comedian, very outspoken, obviously, on a lot of different issues. Talk about that real quick and what went behind that.
Well, sure. So, I've known Dave for almost 30 years, and he and I have been friends a very long time. And he basically said, my man Hill needs help, and I'm going to come and help him. And it's huge. It was huge for us, right? Because, he's playing, last time he was in Detroit, he played Little Caesars Arena. So 20,000 seats sold out, and he came to do an event for me. Obviously it was sold out, and it was great. We did it at a much smaller venue, so folks got to see him in a much smaller, intimate venue. But, that's having someone's back. He's only done that twice before for two other candidates. That's it. Right. But I joked with him. I said, hey, man, the other two candidates you did that for lost. So I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. But
I got you. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying it was a beautiful night. This is the type of thing we need to do as Democrats. And I'm telling you, we have to charge people up. We have to say everybody's invited. We're supposed to be the big tent party. And the problem with the Democratic Party establishment is that they have been eliminating people out of it, right? So I was one of the first candidates in the country to call for ceasefire. We have to, to win in Michigan, African-American turnout, Arab and Muslim, the largest Arab and Muslim community outside of the Middle East is here in Dearborn and Dearborn Heights in Michigan. Those voters have to be spoken to and respect. And then you go into immigrants and progressives and Latinos and Asians. Everybody has to be welcome. The farmers, like I talk about in the video. That's how we win. That's how we win. We build coalition. And that's why I announced the unity agenda this past week, because if we don't unify, we're definitely going to lose. Fracture means lose.
I want to transition to the state of Michigan, because that's what you're running. That's the Senate seat you're running for, to represent that state. Obviously, and if you go to your website, and you can talk about that for a second. But I read your article on Flint, Michigan, the 10-year anniversary of that crisis that took place in 2014. I mean, the water still ain't. I don't know anybody who trusts drinking water in Flint, Michigan, for crying out loud. It's a catastrophe. It's egregious. It's a crisis. The government should be ashamed. Our country should be ashamed for something like that happening to those citizens there. Talk to me about your primary objective in the state of Michigan. You take over as a U.S. Senator representing the state of Michigan. Talk to me about the top 2 or 3 things that you want to tackle. You want to make sure the world knows you want to tackle.
Sure. Well, number one, universal health care. Health care right now, we don't have a health care system. We have a sick care system. Both of my parents were doctors. My mother's 86 years old. She lives with me here in Detroit. She's one of the first Black female anesthesiologists in the country. She's just a hero. And she and I talk all the time that when she got into medicine, it was nonprofit. And the fact that private equity and for-profit so-called healthcare has entered the space, that the incentives are all wrong. Big Pharma spent $375 million on elections in 2022. They're on track to spend over $400 million in this presidential year cycle. There's no question, just 12 minutes from where I'm sitting, if I go over across the Ambassador Bridge to Canada, I'll pay 13 times less for a vial of insulin. Okay, people are deciding between paying for life-saving medicine and their rent. We have to have Medicare for all, universal health care that includes mental health care, that includes vision care, that includes dental care. That is job one, and that's for everyone. Number 2, we need to pass and legislate federally women's reproductive rights and women's reproductive freedom. It's outrageous that my mother at 86 years old would have more body autonomy and ability to control her body and her relationship with her doctor, licensed care provider than my 24-year-old staffer on my campaign. It's ridiculous. And then, you know, there's many other things. Common sense gun laws. I was just yesterday, Stephen, at the corner of Reno and Rossini here in Detroit. 2 people, young people, were shot and killed, the east side of Detroit. And 19 folks were also shot and injured. I went up and down the block, met with people on the street, met with families. You know, there's a candlelight vigil. We have to have common sense gun laws, and we have to get that done. And let me just say this one thing. Speaking of Flint, I was in the Genesee County Jail yesterday, because if you're in jail here in Michigan awaiting trial, you can vote absentee. And so I went to talk to the brothers and sisters in jail in Flint. Genesee County's Flint. So I was in Flint speaking. The residents of Flint still have not been compensated. And the fact is, the governor at the time, Governor Schneider, he should have been prosecuted for what happened to the people of Flint. It is horrific, and it continues. And we all are culpable. We all are culpable of watching this happen and doing nothing about it. And that's an example. Folks aren't voting because they don't feel represented. They're like, if this can happen to me and no one's fighting for me, and no one's fighting to get federal dollars here, no one's fighting to do what needs to be done, and they see it. They're like, they don't have lobbyists, they don't have super PACs, and they know it. So therefore they feel unrepresented. This has to stop. And the way we stop it is electing new leadership, getting rid of the folks that are in there and putting new people in like me.
Well, what I applaud listening to you, what I applaud is that you're talking about everybody. You're not letting anybody off the hook, because we're all culpable to some degree. Right. And both sides of the aisle politically are culpable to some degree. And obviously, knowing you and your MO, your reputation, how much of a stand-up guy you are, you're one of those people that's going to hold folks accountable, even if it's on your side of the aisle. And I think that's a breath of fresh air to a lot of constituents out there. But I will say this. Speaking about that and transitioning to the Democratic Party, I want to know how you feel about President Biden and him being adamant about staying in this race. And before you answer that question, I want to be adamant about where I'm positioned. I want to make sure you know where I stand. I think he should step down. I think he should step. I don't think this is about the 4 years. I'm not even getting into the 4 years that he's had in office. If you're a liberal, if you're a progressive, you're a Democrat, you think he did a pretty damn good job, okay? That's not where I'm going. And I'm not going into age, because as you just pointed out, your mother's 86 years old and you talk to her every day. She talks with you every day. I'm quite sure she's still a brilliant, accomplished woman. But there are people who get a bit older. This is not about ageism. This is about him. And I'm saying, if there's clear slippage, I'm looking at Kamala Harris. I'm looking at Newsom. I'm looking at Westmoreland, Maryland. I'm looking at Hakeem Jeffries. I'm looking at an abundance of people in office representing the Democratic Party that would have a good chance, or a competitive chance to knock off the presumptive GOP nominee. So his insistence on staying in the race, and at 81 years of age, approaching 82 years of age, swearing that he is the best candidate for the job, I think is not a good thing. To that, you say what?
So I think that there's a number of things we have to unpack here. But we have to look at what the goal is. The goal is to make sure that the former 45th president of the United States does not cross the threshold of the White House again. Okay. That is absolute. There's no question that with Project 2025 and all of the things, we don't even need to go into.
He ain't getting my vote. He's not getting my vote. I can tell you that much. I'm not voting for Trump.
So the question has to be, first and foremost, how has he stopped the best? Now we go to the next question. If that's the North Star, that's the goal. How do you get there? Couple things that folks don't talk about enough, I think, when they're, when we're having this conversation. Number one, replacing a United States president who is sitting in the presidency right now is not like finding a new prom date. It's not that easy to unwind, right? Because there's all these things that have to happen. Not the least of which is campaign finance. Right now, money is the mother's milk of politics, right? Because the goal is to get voters out. And certainly, I just said, I don't want to sound hypocritical. I'm running to get money out of politics, but I need money. And any politician these days needs money to win right now. Hopefully, I can change that once I'm in office. But right now, let's not ignore the fact you need money. And so he would have to return, his campaign would have to return all of the money from that's been funded for the general election, which is hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And so when you think about that, unless it was Kamala Harris, because if it's Kamala Harris, that money does not have to be returned. And let me say this about Kamala Harris very quickly. You look at her history, she is one of the most accomplished vice presidents that we have ever had. She was a prosecutor. She was attorney general of the most populous state in this country. She was a United States senator for the most populous state in this country. And now she served for 4 years as a vice president. So you want to talk about someone who's prepared. I want people to understand she's prepared. Now, what should the process be if President Biden, now it's still his choice. We got to understand this. He is the presumptive nominee. He has the delegates. It's his choice. If he chooses to step down, what should that process be? I have some ideas of what it is, but I won't waste our time talking about that now. Right. But it goes back to your original question, should he? And here's my question about that. My question is, was that debate a bad night? And let's honestly, or is that indicative of severe cognitive decline? And right. Only folks inside know that truth, because giving up an incumbency is a massive choice. Incumbency is a massive benefit, and it's also a massive advantage. Just walking away from that's why I'm running for an open seat. I'm not running against an incumbent, because I know how difficult that would be. I'm running for an open United States Senate seat. Go ahead.
Hill, but let me throw this to you, because it's fair. It's a fair question that you asked, so allow me to answer it. I think it can easily be perceived as selfish. I think that 36 years in the Senate, 8 years as vice president, 4 years as the president of the United States, 48 years of service to this country, with a vast majority of Democrats believing you've done a good job and your legacy is intact. So why on earth would you stay on board if it's clear that there is slippage? Everybody knows it. It's not just a debate we've seen. We saw the press conference yesterday, which wasn't awful, but it was rife with some mistakes. You see people, they revealed that, a doctor had come to see him, and it was a doctor that, was specializing in Parkinson's disease. They revealed that after weeks of hiding that. You see officials, 17 at the moment, have come on the record saying he should step away. You just said what you said about Kamala Harris. You have other notable folks that could step in. And on top of it all, they'll probably vote just like he votes. They probably govern just like he governs. And you have said, spoken about them glowingly.
But what's the question? So there's no question that the Democratic Party, we have a deep bench. They're amazing. Right. You're absolutely right. Even within the cabinet, there are great people. You got Jennifer Granholm from Michigan. You got Pete Buttigieg. And as you mentioned before, Wes Moore, Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan, and you have Kamala Harris, the vice president. So there's no question there's a deep bench. There are phenomenal people. You got Pritzker out of Illinois.
Delegates in each state, yeah.
Plenty of folks. That's not the question, though. We have to focus on the question, who is best equipped to win November 5th? That, to me, is the question. We cannot allow the former 45th president into that White House again. So the question is, to me, it's not about slippage, and it's not about legacy, and it shouldn't be about ego for him, to your point. This isn't about his ego. This isn't about anything but who and what team, what ticket on a ballot November 5th is best equipped to get one more vote aggregately in each state, particularly the swing states, than the Trump, than the former 45th president. Now, let's think. In other words, no matter who's at the top of the ticket, Dem or Republican, there are certain states that are just going to go that way just because that's the way the maths. Okay? Now you have swing states, of which I'm sitting on one right now, Michigan, extremely competitive. Now people are saying Virginia's in play because of the slippage, et cetera. So the question, we have to stay focused on who can win, what team wins, because...
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this then.
Yes.
What does it say about the Democratic Party in the year 2024 when you have an incumbent president and folks are highlighting these deficiencies, and you're asking the question, Hill Harper is asking the question, who's the best candidate? The fact that that's even a debate is problematic, wouldn't you say?
It is. But listen, President Biden's coming here to Detroit today.
Okay.
Okay.
I didn't know that. All right.
Yeah, he's coming today. I'm planning on going. And sometimes you got to look somebody in the eye and shake their hand, and you make you make an assessment. Listen, I'll tell you this, and maybe this comes back from my days as a performer doing shows, Broadway, off Broadway, right. An 8 o'clock show. So when I was doing those shows, you do 8 shows a week. You reset your body clock so that 8 p.m. you're at your freshest. I believe if you look at that debate, it's a very late debate. It started at 9 p.m. My intuition is this, and I don't know this for sure, but I'm just going to tell you what I think. My intuition is he probably goes to bed around 8 or 9 o'clock in general, probably gets up at about 5 in the morning. That, that's kind of sometimes when folks are older, that's their schedule. If his staff did not prep him for debating at 9 p.m., meaning reset his body clock, so made him stay up till 2 in the morning and sleep late so that 9 p.m. felt fresh, then they did him the disservice. It's his staff, because I know to be my best at 8 p.m. for a show, I would have to reset my clock to remember my lines on stage. Right. I'd have to reset my clock. And so I don't know who and how they prepped him, but I do believe he's had, obviously you laid out his whole career. Yep. If he were to step down, he would step down as having done perhaps one of the greatest elected public service in the history of the United States of America. I mean, that's pretty incredible, right? Because he was such a young senator when he became a senator. And so there's no question that his legacy's intact, but it goes back to, and you're right, even just talking about the one thing we can't do as Democrats is fracture. I said that even before we started. We cannot fracture. We have to be supported. As soon as, for instance, until he makes the call, we got to have his back. If he makes the call to go a different direction, then we got to have whoever steps up. Okay. If it's Vice President Harris, we got to have her back, full go. You cannot win fractured. And so that's what I'm trying to say. It's not about debating this, that, and the other. It's about who's the best position to win November 5th. And if it's President Biden and he's in this, then we got to stay together as Dems and turn out to vote.
Before I let you get on out of here, and really thank you for your time, and I'm really happy to be talking to you about this subject, and I'm really rooting for you. I'm supportive, and I hope you win the U.S. Senate seat in Michigan. I gotta throw this by you. Sticking with the Senate, right here. Did you know the overall median age of the Senate is 59 years of age? But check this out: 28 representatives in the House and 73 in the Senate, a grand total of 101 representatives in the United States of America, U.S. representatives, U.S. Senate units, U.S. senators, are over the age of 70. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
I looked this up yesterday. Wow. How do you feel when I say that?
You are a research champ. That's why you get paid the big bucks, Stephen A. Smith.
I'm just saying, Hill, I gotta know, because again, we're talking about Biden we spoke about Biden for a few minutes, but now getting back to the U.S. Senate, and you see these representatives in the House and the Senate, 101 of them, last time I checked, which was yesterday, are over the age of 70. How should the American people feel about that?
Yeah, Stephen A., I actually don't think about age so much as I think about lived experience and what you've done. Okay. And so for me, the problem with the Senate is not the age of the folks. It's the fact that the vast majority of them have come up through politics. They're all politicians, so to speak. And they have very limited lived experience, except for being either a government appointed official or an elected official. So therefore, the diversity of experience, and for instance, I'll just give you an example. If I'm elected to the U.S. Senate, listen to this, I'd be the only active union member in the U.S. Senate. We're already down to 6% union membership of the private sector. Unions deserve a seat at the table in the United States Senate. If I'm elected to the U.S. Senate, I'd be only one of 2 parents of an elementary age child. That kind of speaks to your point about age, but that's outrageous. We have so many issues about education, public education. We need parents of kids that are experiencing active shooter training drills so they can go in and say, you're damaging the mental health of my child by not dealing with the gun violence epidemic and letting the NRA and the gun lobby control. If I'm elected to the U.S. Senate, I'd be only a handful of small business owners in the U.S. Senate. Small businesses are the engine of every neighborhood's and community's economy and job creation. And so the problem to me in the Senate and in Congress is the fact that we have a bunch of full-time politicians, lifelong politicians, career politicians who are owned. They've been bought and sold by special interests, corporate interests. And that's who I'm running against. That exact person is who I'm running against, a lifelong government employee in this race. And that we don't need more of those in the U.S. Senate. We got plenty of those. And yes, we need more diversity from lived experiences. So age can be a factor, and yes, we need more young leadership. It's just to me, it's about energy. To be quite honest, I don't care how old you are. If you got the juice, if you got the energy, then you can make things happen. My mom is 86, as we said. She's got the energy and the juice. I can't even keep up with her. So it's about energy and what you're bringing.
Listen, my man, I appreciate so much of your time. And by the way, let me not leave out the fact that you're an author of 6 books. I want to make sure I let my audience know that. Letters to a Young Brother, Manifest Your Destiny, 2006. Letters to a Young Sister, Define Your Destiny, published in 2008. The Conversation, How Black Men and Women Can Build Loving, Trusting Relationships. That was 2010. The Wealth Cure, Putting Money in Its Place, and The Wiley Boys, both 2011. And of course, Letters to an Incarcerated Brother, Encouragement, Hope, and Healing for Inmates and Their Loved Ones. Both Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, the greatest first lady in the history of America, by the way.
Say that.
They both contributed to that book. Oh, yes, I absolutely love her. I wish she was running, to be quite honest with you. Hill Harper, all the best to you. I'm here. I'm rooting for you, my brother. Keep trying to make it happen, my man. Keep grinding.
Listen, you keep it up. You're doing a great job. I love your passion and energy. Brings people in. And folks, please go visit the website, hillharper.com. Even $2 makes a difference. We need you. Love you. We're going to go win this. God bless.
Hillharper.com. I'm going to go there and make my donation now, my brother. You take care of yourself, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much.
All right. The one and only Hill Harper, actor extraordinaire, obviously conscientious observer, activist, now running for the U.S. Senate in the state of Michigan. Wishing him nothing but the best.